Hello and welcome to our webinar. An interesting topic that was asked for again by our esteemed viewers, and we are looking at it as to what we can do the best for our kind viewers, and that's where we were. And we came up with this topic was suggested. It seemed to be a very interesting topic, so you asked for it, and so here it is. So the topic, as you're aware, is on HIPAA and incident management. So again, I thank everyone for being there. In case you're facing any sort of issues with regards to seeing the screen or hearing me, please feel free to drop me a message and I will look into. My team is standing by for you, and we will look into it immediately as to what can be done to fix the issue that you're going through at this time. This is about me. I've been in this industry for like 30 years, and looking at the attendees, quite a few are my clients, our clients, and thank you again for being there as being there for this webinar and gracing us with your occasion, gracing this occasion with your presence. And again, thank you for being there. And this is me. I've been there with VISTA InfoSec for like 19 years. That's my own company, and I'm myself a QSA, QPA, SSA, 27,000 on CSA, CSSP, many things. Again, I'll not be getting into a lot of information about our company, so don't worry. I will not be wasting your time. In case you're interested, you can head out to our website. I'm putting it in the chat box in case you want to know more about our company. Yeah, that's our website. Okay, and as we go along, towards the end, there'll be a brief survey. So do ensure that you fill up that survey. It will not take you more than 30 seconds, but it will really help us understand how well we are doing. And in case we are not doing good enough, then what we need to do to do good enough. So hitting the rubber hits the road right now. So buck up, stay up. Some people are not there attentive. I can see the statistics over here. So start paying attention. Now we are actually getting into the content. So just a quick brief. HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It was introduced in 1996 as a United States federal law. It was enacted by the 104th United States Congress and signed into law by President Bill Clinton on August 21st, 1996. Almost 30 years now that it's been there, and it's doing a fantastic job. A number of amendments, and we'll get into all of it now. Don't worry. And the purpose of HIPAA. Now, I'll be putting up these statistics on and off. It's there on your screen. Like 30% of all data pages are hospital related, because this PII is very, very helpful for hackers or doing major scams. All right. So what is the reason for HIPAA to come into existence? One was the lack of portability of health insurance coverage from one job to another. Let's assume you move from one insurance provider to another. Your data is stuck from one insurance provider to another. Then the portability from one insurance provider to the other becomes a major thing. Or maybe you got treated for X, say in one hospital, and then you move to another hospital. So your data was stuck at the first hospital, and it's not going in a very effective manner, efficient manner to the second hospital, and then the people are suffering, the patients are suffering. And then, of course, the inability of people with pre-existing conditions to obtain health insurance. This was a major constraint. And the high administrative costs associated because of this management, you see. So I'm with X insurance provider, moving to another insurance provider, or the clearinghouse changes, or the hospital changes, then the cost of health insurance, because the management cost is high, the cost of health insurance goes high. So that was the next reason. The next, last but not the least, was the lack of privacy protection of health information. So this was totally like nobody cared about that. What would happen if the patient's data goes out and how it can be misused? So these are the four key reasons behind the formulation of HIPAA. And again, who's covered? So primarily would be the covered entities. So again, we've put down a few points over here, and I will not be reading each one of them. I'll be basically giving you some key points to think about, and you can then read it up, or you can go through the video once it is published. And as I said earlier, in case you have any queries, please put it in the chat box. I will respond to you immediately. All right, going ahead, HIPAA rules apply to both covered entities and business associates. Now, I can't get into a lot of details. Covered entities and business associates. Business associates are the partners of covered entities. And if you need to know more about that, business associate agreement and all these things, head out to our same website, go into resources on the blogs. In the blogs, there are like more than 200 articles on all these various areas. So make the most of it. Everything is free. it's for you. The next thing is covered entities are defined by HIPAA and are defined by HIPAA as to who are covered entities, and they have to follow all. And they're supposed to provide health information between themselves, like between the various hospitals, insurance providers, clearing houses, health plan providers, and stuff, and at the same time protect the patient's information. And again, there are many things required that the business associate should be having an agreement with the covered entities, a BAA as it's called, as a business associate agreement, and there are direct contractual obligations under HIPAA rules. So it is not, earlier it was just covered entities were covered under HIPAA, not the business associate, but with the latest amendments, even the business associates are required. So downstream also from the covered entities, the downstream parties also, third-party service providers also got covered under the, or included under the requirements of HIPAA. And of course, what is the definition of a business associate and covered entity? You can check out 45 CFR 160 in that article 103. You can check it out in that act in itself. And who's a covered entity? This becomes like a major question as to who is a covered entity. This is as per their definition of the HHS, that is Health and Human Services. Now this includes providers such as the doctors, clinics, psychologists, dentists. So it is not just hospitals. This is one of the major key misconceptions of HIPAA, that only the hospitals are covered under HIPAA. No, even a small practitioner, a small doctor, practicing out of one clinic somewhere in some state in the US, in Colorado, in an offbeat area, they are covered under it. So this is not to scare anyone, but the point being that everybody is covered. Dentists, chiropractors, nursing homes, pharmacies, including pharmacies. This is again like hardly any people know that even the pharmacies are covered under HIPAA, but only if they transmit any information in an electronic form, in connection to the transaction for which the HSS has adopted a standard. That is that type of information that is identified by HSS Health and Human Services as being under scope. If they are transmitting that in electronic form, only then it is covered under HIPAA. That's why it is called as an EPHI, Electronic Personal Health Information, right? So it is not your printed paper or at that level, but it's more only if they are transmitting information in an electric form. Then again, the health plan providers, that is, whose are the health plan providers? That could be the health insurance companies, as I said earlier, HMOs, the company health plans, government programs who pay for. So even the government is covered under it. This is really admirable because in many countries, when they come up with a privacy law, the first thing that they do is they exclude the government associates and entities from the ambit of the law, which is very unfair because most of the time the issue is from the government in itself. And again, the healthcare trading houses, that is the ones who are in between the healthcare provider and the health plan providers or the insurance companies, and they are the ones who are actually processing a non-standard health information, that is they receive from another entity into a standard, that is a standard electronic format, or vice versa. That is, they take the electronic format, make it non-electronic, and vice versa. So we'll now get into the rules of HIPAA, and the number one is the privacy rule. And 34%, as you can see, of all healthcare data breaches comes from unauthorized access or disclosure of PHI, personal health information. So about the HIPAA privacy rule, this is a very critical rule. The HIPAA privacy rule it's a federal law, and it sets the standards for the privacy of healthcare information. Remember these words. I will come to the next rule, then I'll show you how it matches up together. It was created in 1996, same with the original act, and then went into effect in 2003 because of all the studies and all the various discussion and updates and cross-questioning and stuff. Then it applies to all the healthcare providers, health plan providers, and the healthcare clearing houses too. And the privacy rule protects individually identified health information, that is a protected health information, PHI, right? It's also, people also refer to it as personal information. Technical would be the protected health information. And of course, it's used in an interchangeable manner, this terminologies. Anyway, so coming to the privacy rule, this is the key rule. This is what the privacy rule is all about. What are the steps that you need to take to protect the privacy of PHI? Developing and implementing a written privacy policy. One of the first steps that is required, you need to have a privacy policy. Then the training of all the employees on the HIPAA privacy requirements and your privacy policy. Then taking steps to prevent the unauthorized use, disclosure, access, and destruction of PHI, and responding to patients' requests for the access to the PHI. These are the 4 steps to protect the privacy of, or to confirm with the privacy rule of HIPAA. And then the question comes is, what is the patient rights under HIPAA? I hope you have attended my previous webinars on GDPR, right? We have done a long series on GDPR, and you can head out to our again YouTube channel. There's an entire channel on, there's an entire playlist on GDPR, and there is a lot of content on GDPR. And basically, you can see a lot of overlap over here. Now, GDPR, the scope is very large as to what defines as covered under the ambit of GDPR. HIPAA is only about the EPHI, Electronic Protected Health Information. The right, so the patient rights under HIPAA, the right to request access to the PHI, the right to request that the PHI be corrected, same as in GDPR, and the right to request that the PHI be restricted from disclosure. Again, there are some checks and balances in this part. I can't get into it now. Now, the right to object to the use of their PHI for marketing purposes. And just imagine if somebody has cancer or a heartbreaking disease like that, and this information falls in the hands of the large pharmaceutical companies and those that bittered family, that family which is in a lot of pain with their loved one going through cancer, and they are then bombarded with calls from these pharmaceutical companies to take this drug or buy this drug or come for this check and come for that check. Can you imagine the pain? And that is to prevent such occurrences. This part, they are the right to object to the use of the PHI for marketing purposes. And last but not the least is the right to receiving and accounting of disclosures of the PHI. Means they are guaranteed by the law that they can ask their insurance health providers or hospitals as to where all they are circulated their information with or without their consent. And those covered entities and business associates will have to provide them that information. Then the HIPAA security rule. So we saw the HIPAA privacy rule, now the HIPAA security rule. Now again, this was a federal law that sets into action the security of EPHI. Now the first privacy law was the privacy of health information. This is for the security of health information. Almost everybody that I speak to doesn't understand the difference between privacy and security. These are two separate things. They are not the same. Security is concerned with who gets access to the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and everything. Privacy is more concerned with user rights. Of course, it does speak about the security of the data also. So there is privacy includes security to some level, but privacy is not secure. Primary objective is user consent, user access, the right to be forgotten, the right to even control who can get access to what data. So those points are there. So coming next, so it was created in 2003 and went into effect in 2005. The privacy rule went into effect in 2003. Remember that it was created in 1996, but it took like what, 7 years for the law to actually came into focus. But here, security rule went into effect within 2 years' time. Now again, application is the same. All healthcare providers, health plans, and healthcare clearinghouses that use or transmit EPHI. And again, it protects the EPHI from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, and destruction. So what are the steps for protecting to protect the security of EPHI under the HIPAA security rule? We have put down 6 steps for this. I'm breezing through this, so in case you want to go through it, you can refer to our previous webinars. So implementing first is primarily implementing the security measures. Then you need to do a risk assessment to ensure that you identify the appropriate risk and identify the mitigation strategies, and then implementing those mitigation strategies and monitoring. Then again, there's training. Once you have implemented, training is mandatory, and you need to have the evidence that you've actually conducted the training of your people. And then of course responding to security incidents, and this is what we're going to focus on today after this few slides. And then of course monitoring the security. So the plan, do, check, act, PDCA cycle, as is globally known, the PDCA cycle, you can see that implemented over here. And then again monitoring security systems and procedures to ensure that they are effective. There's a 6th step. And then the next rule is the transactions and the code sets rules. This was formulated basically to ensure easy interoperability between the various covered entities. So it is basically a set of regulations that standardize the electronic exchange of PII, and the rule requires healthcare providers and health plan to use standard formats and code sets when transmitting health information electronically. This is a bit confusing, but wait for the next slide. Why it is being done? Because to lower operating costs. Because earlier, all the hospitals, clearinghouses, health plan providers, whatever the covered entities, businesses, they would have their own way of coding or encoding the data. They have their own way of giving unique identifiers to the data of the patients in the diagnosis and the treatments. But with this, they are supposed to standardize it. So it would improve your business cycle speed, lower the operating costs, and then the cost of insurance would also come down. The EDI, electronic data interchange, was there, and reduced human error, because then it is all can be done in an automated manner using computer logic, and then again increase business efficiency, because there is no more cross-referencing, okay, that hospital has this code set, our hospital has this code set, now let us cross map and then get all the data in place. That's not really required now. So this is what it means by the by the requirements for HIPAA transactions and code sets rule. Now it basically applies to a number of different healthcare transactions. So what type of transactions applies to? So there could be a code for each of them. There is claims and encounter information, payment and remittance advice, coordination of benefits, health claims. There will be different code for this. Then again, there is a separate code set, standard code set for a number of different purposes, such as diagnosis, procedure. They are supposed to use a standard code set. Now just imagine, maybe the diagnosis of somebody is suffering from, say, type 2 diabetes, and they have made a code set for this particular illness as be XY21. That's the code for one hospital. And the other hospital has, for the same diabetes or something, they have maybe the code of SMA2. Now, when they are sending the data between these two hospitals, how are they supposed to realize what type of diagnosis are we talking about, or what procedure are we talking about? That's where a standard code set is required. That's where the code sets rules and transaction rules comes into place. This is again meant for streamlining the entire healthcare industry, for ensuring that the processing speeds comes down, the human error comes down, and the cost of processing comes down, so that at the end of the day, the insurance rates would drop down, and that would benefit the common people. A very noble intention indeed. Yes, Andre has asked whether the slide set would be available. Yes, after the webinar is over, you'll be getting the link to the YouTube video. And once the YouTube video is there, all the information will be there. But this YouTube video will be published. I don't know. I think it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks something. We don't publish the videos immediately. So what is then the next rule is a HIPAA unique identifiers rule. It's a set of standards, set of regulations that require the use of standard unique identifiers for healthcare providers. Again, so over there it was in the code set and transaction rule, it was more about type of transaction and type of procedures, as it is called, different purposes for what it's happening is there. And this is more at the organizational level. Let me show you what it means. These are the requirements under the HIPAA unique identifiers rule. So there is an NPI, that is a national provider identifier, that is for each of the health plan providers. They are supposed to be having this. Then the health plan identifier under that, which is provided by the insurance companies or the HMOs. Then the EIN, right? So EIN is like every business in the US needs to have an EIN to function. So assigned to all employers or all companies, that's assigned by the IRS, not by the HHS. So the NPI is a unique 10-digit number that is assigned to all healthcare providers or covered entities covered under HIPAA, covered entities under HIPAA. And then again, HPID health plan identifier is assigned to all health plans, right? So that are covered entities. So whenever a particular, look at the last statement, the unique identifier rules require that all healthcare information that is transmitted electronically be identified using the appropriate unique identifier. For example, when a healthcare provider transmits a claim to a health plan, now get this frame. So there is a particular healthcare provider, maybe a hospital, which is sending a claim to an insurance company for maybe some treatment. It could be maybe an operation that was conducted. So in that case, they will for this particular patient, they will have to provide their own NPI. There's national provider identifier, which is unique for all covered entities, including hospitals, and then covered under what health plan, that will come under the HPID. Now then again, below that, what sort of diagnosis or what sort of treatments, that is also covered under the previous, that is the transaction and the code set rule. I really hope you are getting this correlation. So transactions and code sets are more at the procedural level, and the unique identifier rule is more at an organizational level or the health plan layer, health plan level, that is slightly higher than the previous transaction and the unique and the code set rule. There is an enforcement rule, again, for investigating and penalizing violations of HIPAA rules. I will not get into this much. And then they need to establish a rule for investigation of violations of HIPAA, and this is very important, the breach notification rule. The breach notification rule, this also ties up with our security, the incident management for HIPAA. We'll come to that. Stay with me on this. Breach notification covers entities, requires covered entities and their business associates. So upstream and downstream, everybody is covered to provide notification following the breach of unsecured PHI. EPHI or PHI, whatever. So who is covered to comply with the breach notification rule, and then covered entities and the business associates must comply with the breach notification rule. And then what is breach? It's basically an unauthorized acquisition, access, use, or disclosure of PHI. What they are needed to be doing, they must first investigate the breach. These are the 4 steps. Investigate the breach, notify affected individuals, including the HSS, within 60 days. And if the breach is above 500 records or 500 individuals, then they need to notify those individuals immediately. And then, of course, take the steps to mitigate the risk of harm to the affected individuals at their own cost. So they cannot further, trouble the people whose data they have messed up anyway. So these are the common HIPAA violations. Please pay attention where the number 1 is unauthorized use, access, use, or disclosure of the PHI. This is the number 1 identified common HIPAA violation. And the next is the improper disposal of PHI. Like, for example, a hospital record, or it could be a pharmaceutical receipt, or some sort of diagnosis, request. So those things are, after it is over, it's discarded. So many a time it could be like written on a backup tape, or it could be there on a USB drive, or it could be printed and not discarded properly, like shredded or burnt or something like that. And then failure to provide patients with access to their PHI. Look at it this way. This is not just the loss of data, but even if you do not provide people access to their own data, that is considered as a violation. The next is failure to provide to obtain patients' consent for the disclosure of PHI, and then failure to implement security measures to process PHI. These are the top 5 common HIPAA violations. So the importance of HIPAA, again, I don't think I need to get much into it. It's very well required. It is because number 1, it's a law. It's not really a choice. It's a good to have types. You better have it in place types. Then it helps protect the privacy and security of patient health information, ensures that patients have access to their health information, and reduces the risk of fraud, and of course cuts down insurance costs, increases efficiency, gives the confidence to especially the lower income category people, where they feel a bit helpless as to what can we do next, because I need to shift to a new hospital, or I need to shift to a new health plan provider. So this thing is supposed to make things simpler, and it is making things simpler and more easier and more safe. Now, coming to the key point as to what is a security incident under HIPAA. It is basically defined as an attempted or successful unauthorized access or disclosure or modification or destruction of information or interference with the system operations. Look at this, even interference of system operations. So maybe no data is lost, but the hackers were able to compromise the firewalls or the servers of some particular hospital, and they were able to shut them down. So they're not able to pass on that information to the clearinghouse and to the insurance provider, so the claims couldn't be processed in due time. So those things are also considered as a HIPAA violation. So it is not just data loss, right? So you need to keep that in mind. Then covered entities and business associates must have policies and procedures to prevent, respond to, and report security incidents. And these are the different type of security incidents, as we've already seen earlier. The number 1 is, of course, data breaches, when it is accessed or used without authorization, PHI. The next is system outages. This is also something people don't know. They only feel that there is an unauthorized disclosure, that means HIPAA is violated. No, not really. Even if there is a system outage, so the entire confidentiality, integrity, and availability is covered. The entire CIA chart is covered under HIPAA. Malware information, like a virus which infects the critical systems. The natural disasters again comes under the availability angle, and then of course human error, which can cause some sort of corruption of data, or could be causing the unauthorized disclosure of the data, gets covered as a security incident, is required as a security, is identified or known as a security incident. Then what are the steps involved in responding to a security incident, and how do you report it? The number 1 thing, these are the steps that will be looking into next. That is, in case, God forbid, if there is an incident, HIPAA incident, what you're supposed to be doing. And these are the steps involved as per required by HIPAA. Number one, identify the incident. That is, confirm that there is an incident happened and nobody's just crying wolf for being stupid. So you need to investigate and identify that an incident is actually happening, and even identify whether the scale is, because if more than 500 individuals are affected, then you need to inform those individuals immediately. So identify, so what has been infected, how it's been infected, whatever be the case, then contain the incident so it doesn't spread. So the database has been compromised. So what can you do to contain so that no more data would go out or get corrupted by malware? Then the next is contain the incident, that is ensure it doesn't go more. Then assess the damage. What has been the scope? How deep the breach has been in shutting down the systems or data compromise or data corruption, how deep the data the impact has been. Then notify the affected individuals. As I said earlier, as per the requirements of HIPAA, minimum 500. If it goes beyond 500, you have to notify the individuals immediately. Then report to the incident to the OCR within a period of 60 days. So there is no way around this. You need to do all the investigation, come up with the report within 60 days. Then last but not the least is ensure you do an RCA, root cause analysis, and then have a learning session on that. That is, what can we do to prevent such incidents from occurring in the future again, right? So going ahead, then how do you report? This is how it is. You go to the HHS website. So as of, look at the statistics. As of November 2022, the OCR, Office of Civil Rights, has settled 126 cases of HIPAA violations for over $133 million. So on an average, per HIPAA violation has been penalized with more than $1 million. So that's how they are serious about this. I've even read about hospitals with serious infringements even being shut down. So this is something that is really taken very seriously by the OCR. And this is a screenshot of that page. Of course, these images is something on the left has been put by our team, and then you have to fill up filing a HIPAA complaint. Again, on the same page, filing with the OCR, you can search, and then filing a HIPAA complaint, that is reporting the security incident to the HHS Health and Human Services, and then filing a complaint online. So everything is online. You need to, there's a complaint portal assistant that helps you actually fill up that complaint or fill up that incident online. This is the process in which you report it to the OCR by going online on the HHS and clicking on filing a complaint. And then you need to have mandatorily an incident response plan, because that's the first thing that they'll be asking for. So what is an incident response plan, and what are the HIPAA requirements for the incident response? So an incident response plan outlines an organization's response to security incidents and includes information about what an incident response plan is, what HIPAA requirements are for incident response and what steps in a HIPAA compliant incident response plan are. So it is basically an end-to-end that you need to have an incident response plan as to what you're going to do in case there is an unfortunate incident. And of course, incident response plan is a part of the overall incident management process. So it's very important that you involve all the stakeholders and not just let it be an IT event. Get the buy-in from the senior management, test the plan regularly. This is very important that at least on an annual basis, we're testing the plan and then keeping the plan up to date. And these are the requirements for the HIPAA requirements for the incident response. Identify what to do. This should be there in your incident response plan. All right. So I hope you're understanding. In an incident response plan, these are the 6 things that you need to have in mind. Number 1, what to do when an incident is suspected, all right, not confirmed. So how are you going to go about it? Then the next thing is, who's responsible? So who will do it? So somebody says, okay, my data has been compromised. Now what? What are you going to do about it? So that is where the incident response plan comes into place as to what to do when an incident is suspected. So who will be doing what? Who's responsible for evaluating the situation to determine if the incident is even actionable, or is it really an incident in the first place? Then how to respond quickly to limit the damage. Very important, right? It could even be like just pulling the cables, but that's not always the right way, because once you pull the cables, you lost a lot of investigative data from the systems. So what to do next? So that's where the incident response plan is very important in HIPAA. Then how to find the source of the incidents and how to address that incident. That's the next step. Then how to recover from that incident, and then who ensures that the changes are made to prevent future incidents. So how to recover, and then finally the learnings as to how to ensure that this issue doesn't come again to the company, right? And how to mitigate the risk of a security incident. These are the 10 steps identified by HIPAA. Number one, very, very important, annual risk assessment is mandatory. Then implementing the security control as per required under the HIPAA rule, HIPAA privacy rule, the security rule. Within that, there are administrative security requirements, physical security requirements. Those requirements have to be implemented. Then monitoring for suspicious activity. You can't just have a control without any monitor on it. Then having an incident response plan. Then keeping your software and systems up to date. Developing and implementing security policies. Training your employees, conducting regular security audits. That's very, very important, and it's mandatory. Then again, using security tools and technologies, and last but not the least is to back up your data on a regular basis. Now, with the advent of ransomware, I always say that if you're taking a backup, ensure that those backups are tested on a regular basis, and not just you're taking a backup, the data is already encrypted and you're backing it up with the malware. So ensure that you're not doing that. All right. So mitigating the risk and complying and improving compliance. So according to SOFAS, I am sure you know them. It's a cybersecurity company. More than 65%. Listen to this. More than 65% of healthcare service providers reported a ransomware attack in 2021, doubling from 2020, which reported 34% increase from the previous year. So this is up to 2021, and I'm sure that even for 2022 and 2023, this trend would continue. So this is where importance of a risk assessment and risk mitigation comes in place. Identifying, first of all, how do you identify whether there is a something has gone wrong? What do you do when something does go wrong? And how you go back to restoration and resumption. So resumption comes before restoration. Resumption is where you some systems are down, but you need to start working right away. So you have a resumption plan, and restoration is plan is where you put back things back to how it was before the incident happened. So that's the difference between restoration and resumption. Then how can you improve your organization's HIPAA compliance? Number one, again, this is the third time I think I'm saying it, conduct a risk analysis. It's very, very important. And as per the risk analysis, identify the risk treatment plans and then implement those security measures. That's the second step. Then develop policies and procedures for the management of those security measures. Train your people. Once you have developed the policy and procedures, train your people to manage those control security measures in place. And last but not the least, once they have been trained, have a good oversight in place to ensure that things are flowing and working in a way that that those controls have been designed for. And then with final thoughts on this, this is really important. Please stay with us. I have covered a lot of things today. A lot of ground has been covered today. And so you can start by discussing, we started off by discussing about HIPAA and the different rule sets in HIPAA, and then came back to incidents and then how to file a complaint and how to write a incident response plan. I understand that things are a bit on the holistic side, but there's a lot of content already on our YouTube page and on our resources page. This is a quick background about our company. We've been there for almost 19 years. That's our YouTube page. More than 3,500 subscribers to that. And there's a Facebook page. Do follow our Facebook page. We post new content every week. So if you want that for free, you need to subscribe to our channel. And again, our subscription is free. Follow our YouTube page, and even our Facebook page for this. And then again, my sincere appreciation for you for sharing your very, very valuable time. I really hope that I made your time worthwhile on this, right? Now, a gentle reminder about the survey, please do fill up that survey. It really helps us, encourages the team. All this time and money that we spend, we really, your few words really helps, right? And this is the contact information. Do drop us a line in case there is something that that we can do, in case you think there is something that we can work on with you. We are there in the US, we're there in the UK, Singapore, and of course, India. And drop us a line and we'll be more than happy to work with you and contact you back or even answer your queries on that. So have a great day ahead, and I look forward to seeing you in our next webinar next month. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.